Good morning, and welcome to the Harvard Business School Club CEO Forum. My name is Edward Hughes. I'm the president of the club. Before I introduce our esteemed guest, I'd just like to share a few slides with you and talk a little bit about what the club is doing. So again, thank you for joining us this morning. We are very excited to have the Chancellor of UC San Diego joining us, and I think it's going to be a very interesting hour. So we have a number of sponsors, so we appreciate all the work they do in supporting us in our mission as a club. Our mission, oops, go back, is to continue to educate leaders who make a difference in the world and make San Diego a great place to live and work. And we do that through a number of initiatives. Today we have our CEO Forum. We have the CEO of UC San Diego. We have had a terrific list of CEOs over the last couple of years. We also run management development programs, and I'll talk a bit about that in a second. And the third thing is our social enterprise initiative, and that's really been fantastic for San Diego and something we believe in as a club. As you can see, we like to get a variety of CEOs from a number of different industries, whether the CEO of Callaway Golf, which is now Topgolf, CEO of TaylorMade Golf, who obviously got a very big golf community here in San Diego. We've had professors from HBS. We've had, Mick Farrell, CEO of ResMed, Tom Penn, the CEO of the San Diego Football Club. We had a fantastic webinar with Hughes Norton, a super agent from IMG. And we've had some community organizations such as San Diego Water Authority and San Diego Community Power. So we kind of try to mix up the types of CEOs we have to make it interesting for our audience and so everyone can learn a little bit about it. The second thing we do is these management development programs, and we bring a little bit of slice of HBS to San Diego, and we do that in two forms. We do a for-profit program in the fall, which we are about to start in about 2 weeks. It is a really terrific program, 11 weeks, 2 cases a night. The people who go through it just give it fantastic reviews. So if you have people in your organization that you think would benefit from doing that, please, take a look at our website and sign up. It's going to start in a couple of weeks' time, and we're very excited about that. All HBS cases, HBS alumni who are moderating the cases. And in the spring, we do a not-for-profit program, which again is a terrific program. If you happen to be on the board of a nonprofit organization, please, think about that for your leadership team, because again, they are getting a fantastic slice of education that could be good. And the third thing we do as part of that social enterprise is basically try to live the mission that we have, which is educating leaders who make a difference in the world and make San Diego a great place to live and work. And making San Diego a great place to live and work includes having strong not-for-profits, in our opinion. We think they do a terrific job in supporting the fabric of the community here. And so over the years, we've done quite a lot of work in this space. We've invested over $620,000 as a club in social enterprise. A lot of that has gone into sending nonprofit CEOs back to HBS to participate in a week-long program called Strategic Perspectives in Nonprofit Management. We sent 3 CEOs this year. They had an absolutely terrific time. It's game-changing for their organization. We think that by empowering these leaders, we've impacted hundreds of thousands of San Diego residents. In addition to this, we have our nonprofit program here, which basically helps the management team of those organizations become better organizations and more sustainable. We are expanding that initiative now through what we call our social enterprise fellowships by expanding our targeted opportunities to develop nonprofit leaders, but also military leaders who are transitioning out. You'll be seeing soon some communication about this. We've opened up a new sponsorship program, which gives opportunities for companies to basically sponsor specific fellowships, sponsor certain events that we have. We work with the Honor Foundation to transition military special forces, Navy, Marine special forces into the work environment and participate in that. So we are expanding the program that we have got for that. Today's format is going to be a webinar format. We're expecting a lot of people, and so it's going to be a fireside chat. So please type in your questions, and I'll try and get to as many questions as I can at the end. People ask me, why are we having the Chancellor of UC San Diego join us? And I think it's amazing the impact from a economic engine that UC San Diego has on San Diego. And I don't think we fully appreciated that. And I'm going to ask him a few questions about that because under his leadership, the organization has grown terrifically. He is the eighth chancellor. He took on that role in August of 2012. He now runs an organization that's got 43,000 students with 11 different academic and professional schools. His revenue, or the revenue for UC San Diego, is $7.8 billion. Right. So this is a very big organization. They keep winning tremendous accolades, one of the top, 20 research organizations. And they have a huge impact. As we all know, life sciences is a big deal here in San Diego. They have a huge impact on that. He's the first chancellor to come up with a strategic plan, and I'm asking a little bit about that, which was a 10-year program, and they wanted to raise $2 billion. They've raised over $3 billion doing this. If you live here in San Diego, you see all the expansion, the building, the construction, the cranes. UC San Diego is really booming. Professor Chancellor Khoslar's background is he's a renowned electrical and computer engineer. We were chatting just prior to this. He just got back, flew 48 hours there and back to India, was 18 hours on the ground working with the Prime Minister of India to help develop a semiconductor industry in India. So he's obviously extremely well known in his field. Prior to UC San Diego, he was the dean at the School of Engineering at Carnegie Mellon University. So he's won lots of achievements and awards. So with that, let me welcome Chancellor Khosla. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ed. It's a great honor to be at this in this conversation with you. So thank you very much for this invitation.
And I appreciate the fact that you just got off a very long flight, etc., to India, which was crazy. Yeah. So you literally went there and back in what, 72 hours or something crazy?
So I arrived like 10 a.m. on the 10th, and I left the country at midnight on the 11th, 2 a.m. on the 11th. So you can just see it was like 16 hours, 18 hours. Right? Yep.
Wow. And you were explaining that India is looking to build some kind of semiconductor industry there, and how are you helping with that?
So I don't know if I'm helping, but I'm on what is called the governing board of two large initiatives. One is the Indian Semiconductor Mission, and the other is the National Quantum Mission. And the whole the country is following this. Like if you look at the last decade of the country, it was a lot of infrastructure building. This decade is going to be more about infrastructure, as in semiconductor industry, quantum industry, research, building great universities. So that's where I'm involved in offering my opinions. I don't know whether that matters or not, but to me, it matters that I'm able to go back and help the country that nurtured me for so many years. And then I came to this country. So, yeah.
Okay, great. And you said building great university. So maybe you could tell us a bit about UC San Diego and the economic impact it has here in San Diego. Because as a business person and an alumni group of a business school, etc., kind of how big a deal is UC San Diego?
So look, I don't know how people view this, but I can tell you, having been in academia since 1982 when I came to this country, I have seen the evolution of many, many universities, just about every university in the country. And UC San Diego, honest to God, stands out in ways that most others don't. Not because they never did, but because they're much older than UC San Diego. So I want to preface that, right? And I don't say this because I'm the chancellor. UC San Diego was created in 1960 as a graduate institution. And lo and behold, to support scripts oceanography and their research, somehow the politics didn't work out, and it was forced, quote unquote, and encouraged to be an undergrad institution starting 1964. So that's our age, 1964 to now, okay? So we are about 60 years old, as you can tell. And in 60 years, we have built a research portfolio, which is today at $1.8 billion. That's over a 60-year time frame. But in the last decade, I've been here since 2012. When I got here, we were about $1 billion, like $950 million. And we have nearly doubled our research in the last 12 years. This is more research than most universities in the country have as their total portfolio, and they've been around for 100 plus years. So that's one way to think about UC San Diego. A different way to think about UC San Diego is from nothing to 43,000 students in 60 years, which is actually a big number.
Yeah.
And so when I got here, we were a $3 billion organization. I know you said 7.8, which is like a number from more than a year ago. We are today a $9.1 billion organization.
That's nice growth within a year. Any business will take that. That's good.
That's actually a lot of growth. And that's why we are trying not to grow very aggressively. If I had no controls over growth, I mean, we'd be much bigger, right? But we need to grow in a manner that we can absorb and digest the growth, not just for ourselves, but the community around us also should be able to digest. And I can tell you, our student growth is already causing some people to raise questions, but we do this because California needs more access. And that's what we're all about, creating more access, creating quality education. The third data point I want to mention to you before I give you one more data point. In the last decade, I've spent $9 billion in construction on this campus, $1 billion a year. And our impact on the local economy was about 17 million and 5 years ago. It's more than $20 billion today. So it's a big part of San Diego economy. And I like to joke and a little bit boast too, that without UC San Diego would not be what it looks like. And I think, I'm not saying we are the only driver, but we do take credit for San Diego being a tech and a biotech hub of the country.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the biotech stuff, because UC San Diego does a lot of, fantastic research in the life sciences space. So maybe tell us a bit about that.
So, like we have multiple strengths. And what people don't appreciate is we are a full service university that does not have a law school and does not have an architecture school. But our arts, for example, that are often overlooked, are top 5 in the country. Our Department of Theater and Dance, our Department of Music and Visual Arts, literally are top 5 in the country. And I say this to make sure people understand we are not only a STEM school, because people like to position us as a STEM school, and within STEM as biological sciences. Our engineering is ranked number 11 in the country, and it's less than 60 years old. Our Department of Medicine, our School of Medicine, our hospital is ranked number 19 in the country. Our School of Biological Sciences is top 10. So whatever we do, we want to be in the top 10. Most of what we do is in top 20, but a lot of that is top 10. So we invest in areas where we are going to be leading and showing the way of what the future is going to look like. And biological sciences and life sciences are those areas, in addition to engineering.
Yeah, I know my daughter graduated from UC San Diego in international business, and it was a fantastic program. So maybe you can talk a little bit about some of the innovations that are going on in UC San Diego in terms of both education and research.
Yeah, so let me talk about, there's no end to what we can talk about innovation. We can spend like hours doing that, but let me just give you a few highlights. So the first thing we're doing is really doubling down on AI and integrating AI in our normal management operations, administrative operations, and in our education. And we are doubling down. So this is not something that if you ask rank and file, they'll say, oh, yeah, we're doubling down on AI. But I can tell you from where I sit, I have multiple projects going on, which are basically investing in AI before it is unveiled, right? So I'll give you an example. So in administrative services, we have literally in less than 3 months built an AI module, which is called a fund manager. So with a $1.8 billion research portfolio, we face a lot of threats from other UCs and other universities around the country that are trying to hire our fund managers that understand how to manage an NIH grant and a portfolio of NIH grants, for example, right? These are not easy jobs. These are actually difficult jobs. And we have a large cadre of people who do this. And given that now people can work remotely, all of these people are available to work remotely across the country. So here I am facing a threat and actually losing some people. So we figured out that this was going to be a problem. So we started building this fund manager tutor. And now we have an instance of a fund manager where you can come in, not as a novice, but nearly not a well-trained fund manager, and work with this tutor and ask questions in real time. And over the course of 3 months, get trained to be at least a B+ fund manager, and over the course of a year to be an A+ fund manager. So that's the type of investment we are making. And so this is not displacing any jobs, but it is making our people more, how should I say, productive. And it is helping us mitigate the risk of losing people and falling apart. So I want to make this clear because people always think of AI as taking jobs away, but this is a great example of people are leaving already because other universities have these jobs, and we are able to refuel our quote unquote pipeline because of taking advantage of AI. And by the way, it's not well known, but we were one of the first places. So the whole notion of neural networks came out of UC San Diego, and Jeffrey Hinton was here as a postdoc many, many years ago, right? So this is in many ways the birthplace, or at least we claim to be so, of birthplace of AI. So it's good to go back to our roots and say, you know what, I'm going to take advantage of this now. So that's just one example. We're doing the same thing in teaching. We're doing the same thing in classroom and so on and so forth.
Talk a bit about AI in teaching. I teach business up at UC Irvine's Paul Maraj
Right.
School of Business, and luckily for me, most of my stuff is case studies, etc. But I know that other classes where the professors are very concerned about the students using AI to write up all their papers and that type of stuff. How are you handling that, and how big a concern? I mean, you were a professor, right? Obviously now you're a chancellor, but how are your colleagues handling that?
So first of all, what we would call cheating 10 years ago. Okay, so I'm not concerned about people using AI and quote unquote cheating. Uh, at the end of the day, the question to ask is, what are the various modes of learning and knowledge acquisition of various individuals? And we, as individuals, we work where we respond to different modes, right? Some people learn through collaboration, others learn through reading, others learn by doing. You see what I'm saying? So there's different modes. And to me, AI would be just one such mode that will enable and empower the learning of our students. So that's how I see this. So the fact that you did a ChatGPT search and came up with a beautifully written paragraph in your paper, if you absorb what you were writing, if you learned something out of that paragraph, to me, that would be worth it. And I would not call it cheating as long as you acknowledge that, hey, look, here's what I learned, and here's what and I agree with this, so I'm going to use this in my paper. So I don't see acknowledging other people's work, using other people's work with proper acknowledgement as cheating. And ChatGPT would be like other people's work. People are concerned that when you do that, you're not learning. I think what we need to do is rethink how we testing our learning. Instead of saying that you cannot do this, I would much rather rethink how am I going to test that Ed really learned the subject in this area. Make sense?
Yeah. So tell me about that. How are you thinking about redoing the testing? What does that
So
look?
look, there are many faculty are thinking about how should one be testing? I think, for example, like I don't have great examples of how we have changed our testing processes. I can tell you how we have changed the delivery of some courses. So one of the best courses, or one of the best courses, is in actually management, where they're using AI to teach. And amazingly, what we can do now is, if you, for example, give me a script of, just take, what do you teach at Harvard, like finance or case studies? So if you give me a script of your lecture, we can literally create a real-time video that looks like you teaching that course in real time, even though you never recorded that. You just gave me a text of what you were going to say, but you never recorded it. We will create that, we will simulate that artificially using computer vision techniques. It would look like you. It would have the same hand gestures. We are about 80% there. But we want to be nearly 95% there. So what will this do? What this does is it takes away a single person, like the person doesn't have to be present all the time to be able to be quote unquote present and teach.
Okay.
Makes sense? So the other module we are developing is, for example, helping instructor create tests. One of the most difficult things in any course is creating a test, right? So we're developing modules that allow instructors to create tests or test questions automatically. So the instructor does not have to create the question. The instructor just has to ask the question, is this the right question to ask? Does that make sense?
Okay.
So the job has become, instead of creating the question, it is answering the question, is this the right question to ask? Does this test the knowledge that I want to test, right? They're also creating a student module where the student can interrogate this quote unquote AI and about issues, and the AI is trained on the learnings and the teachings of the instructor. So for example, in a biology course or a probability course, we are not going to teach this AI everything about probability. We will teach what Ed knows about probability, what textbook he uses, and then based on that, the student is able to interact with Ed and get the answers that Ed would give. And this is kind of important because the base knowledge is the same for everybody, but what differentiates a teacher is the interpretation of the base knowledge, the way you explain it.
Okay.
So the way you would explain sampling, the way you would explain statistical distribution. You see what I'm saying? These are all like different people have different insights into this. So that's what we are trying to capture.
Okay.
I'm like super excited about this. I think it's going to change the way. I don't think the need for instructors is going to go away, but I think the learning outcomes of students are going to become better. It's going to be a superpower for a student.
So as you created the strategic plan, we went through this period with COVID, which the world changed. And in business, you see people on video calls, you see less travel, you see a number of things go. What changed at the university with that? As you come out of COVID and you think about your strategic plan, whether things you're going to have to adapt.
Yeah, so a lot changed, right? But first of all, let me explain to you why I did what I did. Because most people think of strategic plan as literally a roadmap of do's and don'ts, timelines of deliverables, who's going to do what, and all of that is fine. But that's not the reason I did what I did. When I got here, I realized that this institution had literally achieved greatness through what I would call, I was going to call it a random walk, but it's not a random walk. It is, there's some method behind the madness. You see what I'm saying? You don't become greatness just by doing a random walk. So we had great leadership. And my view was over the next decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, how do we maintain that edge? So for me, the strategic plan was about 2 things. It was about opening a window and a safe space so that people can say whatever they wanted to say, because we had built up a lot of frustration because of the way we were growing and the growth, the way we were created, the politics. So one was to give people an opportunity to just release their energies in the right way, in the right space. So while that space was created, I had a window into that space, and I could, by looking in through that window, in a period of 6 months, learn the history of the 50-year history of this place in like 6 months, like less than 6 months. Secondly, the goal was to really align people to a mode of thinking where they didn't have to agree with each other, but they knew approximately what direction we were going in, and they were internalizing what our goals were. So my strategic plan at the end of the day was 8 words. And I said, look, I don't want to create a 40-page document. I want every one of you to interpret these words when you come to work and do the best you can. And that's it. That's all I'm looking for. So amazingly, that worked like a charm, because in about 3 or 4 years, everybody was speaking the same language. Everybody was aligned and focusing on each other, helping each other. And I had to create no goals. I had to not say we'll do this by that date. So this was an experiment that I tried on a large organization. And amazingly, it worked. Actually, it could become like a business case for Harvard on how to build strategic plans, because I don't think people do it the way I did it, but to me, it was clear that that's what we need. We need people to buy. So I am a strong believer that the crowd knows the questions and the crowd has the answers. So the strategic plan for me was to energize the crowd. So it was asking the right questions and it was coming up with the right answers. Does that make sense? So, but it was not for me to decide what we should be doing.
That's great. And so what did it look like? Did you say it was 8 words?
Yeah, at the end, I said, look, all you have to remember is 8 words. 8 words were actually very simple. They're obvious. Student-centered, research-focused, service-oriented, public university. So they're very obvious. So the not so obvious are the last 2, which is public university, which everybody thinks of public university as one that has public governance. What people don't understand, every university in this country, nearly every, like 98%, are public institutions.
Right.
And it starts with, people think of Harvard as private, Yale, Princeton, MIT. These are public institutions, because if you look at their inputs, most inputs are public monies, like research, for example, like Pell Grants, like scholarship money. I can just go down the list. The country invests a lot in education, and the private institutions have private governance, but they are beneficiaries of this public investment.
Okay.
So the difference between public and private is not about government money, it's about the governance. So my governance is more a public institution governance with rules and regulations that a private institution does not have to obey, for example, right? So that's the big difference. But all of us are funded by public funds. So the question to ask then is what is, so one more thing. So even though people say, wait a second, I have a private endowment, that's like my money. A private endowment, which is based on tax breaks that individuals get, is a public investment. Let's not forget that.
Okay.
Does that make sense? It is an individual's largesse and their generosity that lets them say, I'll give you this. But the state and the feds do have an implicit investment in making that, in allowing that to happen very effectively, right? So point I'm trying to make is this public investments, both explicitly and implicitly. So we are all, the higher education in this country has been very heavily supported by the taxpayer. And we are seeing the impact of that. We are seeing our ability to create wealth is unprecedented. There is not a country in the world that creates wealth the way we do.
Right.
And I think public investments have a lot to do with that.
Okay. So how is the governance structure? Because, a lot of people on the call are probably CEOs or been CEOs. And, I used to have a board of directors, those type of things. So you've got the UC system above you. So how do you interact with that?
The UC system is a family of 10 quote unquote campuses.
Okay.
And about 5 of those campuses are humongous. Like we are like 9+ billion. UCLA, I think, is 11.5. UCSF is about 11. Berkeley is about 4. So these are large campuses, but nonetheless, they were created from a single seat for the University of California, and Berkeley being the first campus. So that's why Berkeley is called Cal and not called Berkeley, right? Because it's University of California. So these 10 campuses on a day-to-day basis pretty much operate independently, and the chancellor is the chief executive with all the delegated authorities to make all the decisions, except that we have to follow certain policies. So the policies are what in a private institution would be the trustees creating a policy, which would be then implemented by the president. In this case, the regents and the office of the president create the policies, and we become the implementation arms of that policy. Okay. Right? And there are multiple policies about hiring, policies about firing, policies about tenure, policies about faculty governance, shared governance. I can just go down the list. So they're pretty well-developed policies. And that, so that is no different than, to be honest with you, many other private institutions, except that for us, the same policy applies to 10 different campuses, and which has 10 different implementations. So when you look at us, we are like 10 siblings who have some shared properties, but who have our own personality. Right? So UCLA, UC San Diego are similar personalities, but similar properties, but different personalities. I can go down the list, right? So we are unique and together simultaneously.
Okay, so you've got they kind of make sure there's some overarching policies, but you are allowed to kind of drive the university itself in terms of the direction you want to go, as long as it's compliant with the master policy, right?
That's exactly right. So if I say we're going to double our research portfolio over the next decade, that does not violate any policy. Nobody would argue that that's a bad thing to do, right? But for example, on the undergraduate side, there might be a policy which says we need to expand access. We need to expand access to the UC by 10,000 students over the next 5 years. So then the question is, which campus is going to expand how much? It's just a function of how the regents and the office of the president kind of divvy up the allocations. But that's not different than what any individual would have done anyway.
Right. No, I mean, it's the same business. I mean, and if you're a CEO, you're used to like every division wants more capital, et cetera. So maybe we can dive into that a little bit. How do you've got huge budgets, you've got, super smart people there. Everybody's saying, Chancellor, give my department more money for research. What's the process for how you allocate that? Is there a strategic direction from above the UC San Diego? Hey, we're going to focus in on these things. How do you think
Right.
about that?
So when we did the strategic plan, we identified 4 areas, and as we are refreshing the plan right now, it's going to become 6 areas. So let me explain to you what the 4 areas were, and I'll tell you why they were. So an institution like UC San Diego with like, I don't know, close to 3,000 faculty, there's no way, besides picking 3,000 areas, you can describe what everybody does. And if you pick 3,000 areas, you might as well pick nothing, right?
Yeah.
So the going in position is, first of all, anything and everything that any individual faculty member is doing is important and will be supported. So there's no doubt about that, okay? Because individual faculty bring the reputation. So the question then is that what is the goal of a broader strategy? The goal of the broader strategy is to again bias the investments in certain directions or create a magnetic field which allows people to go in a certain direction without everybody going in that direction. So the 4 areas, for example, were understanding and protecting the planet was one. The second area was understanding the basis of human cognition, memory, and illness. The third area was improving human health and society. And the fourth area was understanding and addressing disparities. Now, the way these were constructed, my instruction to everybody was, look, we're going to wordsmith this so that anybody who is being creative can look at this and say, you know what, here's how my work fits into this. And I'll come and explain to you what this means. That was number one. And number two was, I said, look, a common person like my mother, who's educated, God bless her soul, would look at this and say, you know what, my son is actually spending time usefully. I know what he's doing. Okay. So let's take about understanding and protecting the planet. So people will say, wait a second, this is about climate science. Yes, it's about climate science. It's about tornadoes. It's about the asteroid belt. It's about the pandemic. Anything and everything that can impact human beings and humanity and the physical aspects of our planet is part of this, right? So now it's just a matter of your interpretation of how you have to put in work in this. The part of the human brain, human cognition and memory, and was all about the brain, understanding the brain, end of story. Understanding the brain, both from a cognitive science point of view, computation point of view, illness point of view, understanding mental illness, schizophrenia, and there's a lot of mental health issues coming along. So we have the top departments of neuroscience and psychology in the country. The fourth is addressing disparities, was all about understanding the inequalities that we are creating. Some we are creating, most we are creating unknowingly, but in some sense it's knowingly because we know that the more technology we create, the more wealth that companies create, the more inequality gets created automatically because people who own ownership in the company get rich faster than people who work for the company, right? So then the question is, how do we address these issues? How do we address inequality because of climate issues, inequality because of sea level rise? I can just go down the list. You can see how they're all related. So there was social sciences, humanities embedded in all the issues that we were talking about. So in every area, the whole university has the potential to contribute.
Okay. And as you think about, I mean, those are, macro kind of themes that you've got. How focused are you on, okay, well, this research is going to be potentially something that could be spun out into a startup. It could be
Right.
partnered with a medical company to implement this. How important is that as you think about the allocation of dollars versus this is a science and we just need to understand it more?
Right. So my view on that is slightly contrarian to most presidents in the country. So my view when it comes to creating businesses out of a university is that we should be enabling the creation of businesses and entrepreneurship at UC San Diego in the community. But we should not be in the business of evaluating what business has been created. There's a big difference here. So for example, if you look at most tech transfer offices, they will try to say, hey, this molecule that you've invented or you've discovered is worth a lot of money. So I'm going to take like 8% royalty, and this other one we're only going to take 2%. And my view is our job is to enable and empower everybody at UC San Diego wants to create a company, our job is to evaluate nobody. This is an important statement, okay? Because I want my tech transfer people to just push. You want to come start a company, even if I think it's a bad idea, but if you think it's a good idea, I'm going to enable you to do that. And then let the market decide outside how much money you raise, how successful you are. I am not going to be the filter that decides if you should be successful or not.
Okay. Okay.
Right. Secondly, we just say we'll take 5% from startups out here, and that's it. No board seats, nothing, and like light a candle for everybody every morning. So we don't evaluate technology as aggressively as most other places will. Because my job, my view is that this is public monies that we're investing. And if they can go out and create a company, create jobs, and every so often they'll fail, but that would happen anyway, even when with the venture capital. The best firms have like an 80% failure rate.
Exactly.
Right. So I'm thinking, so why are we wasting our time? And that I think has served us well because I've been able to bring that philosophy to this campus and say, you know what, we are going to be supporting innovation and entrepreneurship for all. It's not just in the business group, it's not just in engineering, it's in literature, it's in sociology, it's in the medical school. Anybody and everybody who wants to be an entrepreneur or have those properties or those learnings, we will on this campus enable it. So based on that, I've invested, I don't know, close to a couple of $100 million in building the infrastructure, this design innovation building, a maker lab, and just investing in departments, in schools. And so the other thing we're doing is we're saying the Central Entrepreneurship Institute is going to enable everybody, but there's no reason why we have only one. Engineering can have its own, business school has its own, medicine can have its own, biology. So there's diversity of inputs into what entrepreneurship means.
Okay.
Right. So I'm just a strong believer in creating a petri dish out here, which has the right conditions for things to grow very aggressively, but without controlling the growth. I want to provide like a magnetic field around it, if I use that term loosely, or a force field around it, but I don't want to define specific outcomes.
And are you seeing success in that model? Are you seeing an increasing number of startups kind of being spun out of UC San Diego?
We are, and it may not be obvious to, but we are, if I'm not mistaken, right now, the third ranked university in the number of startups.
Right.
Top 5 for sure, right? It's not obvious to people. We don't brag enough. We don't talk enough about what we are doing. Forget how good we are. I think the idea is to just be talking about what we are doing and let people decide how good we are. It's not for us to tell people how good we are, but we should tell people what we are doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's impressive. The third ranked for startups, because I mean, you think about Stanford and my alumni, etc. I mean, that's impressive.
No, it is pretty good, right? And also, I bought this building in downtown, Park and Market, and the whole idea of buying that building was to literally take a little bit of who we are and put it in underserved locations. So we have an entrepreneurship program for underserved communities. See, we talk about entrepreneurship being quote unquote the hobby or the goal of the middle and the upper middle class, which I think is true, because if you've grown up with understanding risk, you understand how to build a company. But if you've grown up not knowing where the next meal is coming from or barely balancing your budget at the end of the month, you don't understand this notion of I can walk away and have nothing left. Right? So I think we are enabling our communities across the board to think about understanding risk, identifying risk, mitigating risk, executing. And these are the properties that we all need as individuals. Forget being an entrepreneur. So to be an entrepreneur is not one who starts a company. An entrepreneur is the one who's a self-starter. End of story. You can start a company or you can be part of a Google and be a self-starter.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, I always say entrepreneurs, they're not just run to risks. They're trying to look at an opportunity and manage the risk and try to figure out, how do I risk adjust this and do this so that we can create an opportunity. Right. Let me ask a little bit about, workforce. How do you get the best and the brightest people around the world to want to come to UC San Diego? How do you retain them? What's going on there?
So again, I'm going to offer you a view which is going to be slightly contrarian. I think we got to look at education and divide it into multiple strata. So let's just divide that into undergraduate and graduate for right now. But then we'll talk about masters and PhD. For undergraduate, I'm a strong believer that the power of this country has been in an egalitarian view of access. So the question to ask is not if Ed is the best person I can admit. The question to ask is Ed good enough to be admitted to UC San Diego? Can he succeed given the program we have, the difficulty, the challenges we have? Ed may not be the best person, but is Ed good enough? And you see that's the difference between satisficing and optimizing. Right. It was a Nobel Prize winning idea.
Yep. Yep.
Right? So when it comes to undergrad education, I think satisficing is the criteria. Are you good enough? Can I bring you in and offer you my education and you will be out there being successful? When it comes to PhD, I think it's optimizing. There we want to pick the best of the best to work with our best faculty. Just like in faculty, we pick the best of the best from all over the world, regardless of where they come from, and apply them and their mind and energy to problems of great significance to society and to. So these are two separate criteria. So why do I tell you this? Most private institutions will curate an undergraduate class. Mm-hmm. We don't curate the class. We basically look for creating access. So I have grown from, I don't know, 27,000 to 43,000 in like 10 years. No private institution, you can look at your own alma mater, you can look at any private, they have not grown this much in that short time because they literally control how many undergrad seats they have and who they're going to admit and who they're not. So our job is to create access, and I'm a great believer in access. Our job is to create access and create social mobility. Now, private institutions also create social mobility, don't get me wrong, but our access is much bigger. So that's how I see our undergrad education. So I don't think about, should I admit Ed or should I not? I think about, will Ed be successful at UC San Diego or not?
Okay. And how about the faculty, right? Is there any constraints on you in terms of attracting faculty because you are a part of the UC system? Because obviously, superstar faculties, help build reputations and institutions.
Right. So UC San Diego is blessed, right? So if you look at, so recently there was a survey of institutions where they looked at these institutions and how many highly cited faculty do they have. Right, so they'll create a list of individual faculty and their citations and who's highly cited. Then they ask themselves, where do these people belong in these various institutions? UC San Diego, believe it or not, was ranked number 7 in the world.
It's impressive.
Larger than Berkeley, larger than UCLA, larger than UC San Francisco. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, you're not competing with those guys, right? Yeah.
No, in some sense, we are competing. In my mind, we are competing more with ourselves. Every day, we want to be better than the day before. And if we focus on that, first, life will work out fine, right? And that's the question to ask. Am I better today than yesterday? So that gives you an idea of the faculty. Now, these are faculty we compete with Harvard, Stanford, MIT, Yale, Princeton. I can go down the list, Penn. All of these top places are to hire faculty because we're all working in similar areas with similar goals and similar visions. And in spite of that, we are successful because our compensation is, I think, competitive. Yeah. Now the question to ask is, wait a second, your compensation is competitive. You don't get, your tuition is maybe like, so our $15,000 tuition is 1/4 of pick a private institution's tuition. So I get 15,000 plus another 10,000 from the state. So let's say 25,000. Yeah. So 9,000, 24,000, which is 1/3 the tuition of most private institutions. So the question to ask is, how are you competing with 1/3 the revenue with the private institutions? So the way we are competing is because we have 3x the class size.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So private institutions might have a class of like 20 students. I will have 60 students.
Got it.
But I'm able to bring the best people and put them in front of my classroom.
How tempting is it now with what we're doing, video, et cetera, to take these, superstar faculty and make some of the content online so you can extend it into many countries and leverage that one asset to beyond 60 students into 500 students?
So I think it's very tempting, right? So, and I can take you down the history of academia, starting with the invention of the printing press, which allowed verbal distribution of knowledge to become like written distribution of knowledge, right?
Yeah.
I can take you all the way from there to today. And amazingly, Harvard, what, 300-year-old institution, still hasn't changed its pedagogy,
Yeah.
right? Oxford, I could go, and we have places in Italy, they still haven't changed because there's something to be said about instruction that is based through human interaction and through collaboration physically. I'm not saying technology cannot help us. I have a feeling technology can magnify and amplify, but technology most likely cannot replace.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree. I mean, as a adjunct professor, it's kind of like when I had to do this as hybrid for 2 years, the quality of the discussion was not nearly as good.
Exactly.
So it's I could
Right?
say exactly the same thing, but if I'm looking for the thinking going on in the classroom and discussion about it, it's so hard when everybody's sitting on a Zoom call.
Exactly. But will AI recorded courses be useful? Yes, but they will not replace the interaction of the physical instructor. So instead of having Ed in 100 classrooms, we would have Ed's lectures in 100 classrooms and different people supporting Ed's lectures in those classrooms. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's talk a bit about the Rady School of Business. I know Dina Adonius has done a great job. I mean, it's having, I mean, it's a young school,
Right.
and it's getting terrific reviews. So, I know we got a lot of business school alumni on this call. Maybe you can talk a bit about the Rady School because it's on a roll.
Yeah, I think the Rady School is doing tremendously well. I think it has been doing well from day one. Uh, and thank you to Ernest Rady for his vision to invest in the school, and Bob Sullivan, who was a founding dean,
Yeah.
who did a spectacular job. And then followed by that is Lisa, who's built on what Bob has done and also is doing a great job, spectacular job. So the Rady School is slowly but steadily positioning itself uh, as, I think people might disagree with, I would say, a non-traditional MBA school. Business schools have been ranked on their MBA degrees,
Yep.
but they do more than MBA. So if you look at MBA, including at the best business schools, it's a small part of what they do.
Right.
And even though they're ranked only on that, and it doesn't make sense to me. I think Rady School has taken the broad view that we need to be good at more than just the MBA degree. So they have a degree in computational finance. They have a degree. They have programs in innovation entrepreneurship. They have become, in my mind, this. I think going forward, you pick any major and you combine with business and policy, and that is going to be the secret to your success. Graduating without understanding the fundamentals of business, I think, is problematic. Right? Without understanding the fundamentals of government policies, create is problematic. And what the Rady School has done extremely well is this large undergraduate program now, which most business schools will not do it, but Rady School has been truly spectacular. And we have more undergrads who are now sensitized in business education than we ever had before, right? A Rady School has traditionally focused on entrepreneurship. The focus is still there, but has expanded to include other areas. It's not just entrepreneurship anymore. So I take great pride in how we've been able to position the Rady School and the work that Lisa is doing and Bob did before that in really making UC San Diego a stronger place.
Oh, absolutely. And how big is I know with HBS, executive education is a big deal. I mean, it makes great money for the program. Is that an increasing part of Rady School as well?
It is small, but slowly but steadily. It's not the infrastructure that we were able to build on day one, but
Okay.
I think the infrastructure is focused more on undergraduate education right now. But over time, you can see. So if you look at the Rady School, even though if you look at the rankings, it may not be top 20, quote unquote, ranked in US News. But if you look at the publication record of, we have more faculty who are more research oriented than even the top business schools in the country. They publish more, they're more research oriented because that's the UC system, right? So I think as time goes on, you will see that executive education becomes an important part in Rady School, in School of Global Policy and Strategy, including in engineering. I mean, at MIT, executive education, summer courses in engineering bring in a lot of revenue.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Huge, huge.
right? And Stanford, same thing.
Yeah, yeah, no, big deal, big deal. All right, let me turn a little bit. I got some questions from the
Okay.
audience, and so people who are, please type them into the Q&A. So I've got uh, does UCSD offer or intend to add any training for corporate directors, independent directors for corporate boards? So I'm not sure whether that's part of the Rady School program, but would you know whether they?
Actually, so right now, the answer is we don't have any, and the answer is we have not discussed it. But I know as a corporate director myself that having a program like that is going to be very helpful, especially for the local community in San Diego, because we have amazing talent. We have amazing people out here who have served as corporate directors. And the best way to get them involved is to really start building these short courses. But thank you for a good idea. I'm going to take it to Lisa and we'll see where we go. Thank you.
All right, I got one from Sarah Nunez. She's asking about the UCs have a shared approach to responding to campus protests and encampments this year. What are you anticipating at UC San Diego, and how are you ensuring that free speech is protected while ensuring a safe space for education can also continue? Obviously, it's been a challenging year on that regard.
Right. So I'm hoping that there are no protests this year, but I know I'm going to be wrong as always. So there will be protests, but I can guarantee you that people always confuse not protecting free speech. If I take action against what I think is an illegal protest, and it's not I think it is an illegal protest, policy violating protest, that is not the same as not protecting free speech. We are extremely strong defendants and protectors of free speech. As a public institution, it is actually our responsibility and it's our mandate. We have bigger mandate than private institutions do in this area. But what people don't understand is all of this should be done in the context of policies that have been put in place. So, for example, on this campus, anytime between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m., I think is the time, you can be doing protests in a lawful manner and nobody will stop you. But what you cannot do is become unlawful about it and think that that will be tolerated. And I think the last quarter, the last semester, many institutions showed different levels of tolerance towards these protests. What we are seeing now is the UC system, the regions have laid down a policy which is strongly supportive of free speech, strongly supportive of academic freedom, but not accepting of violation of university policy and laws of the country.
That makes a ton of sense. And please do us a favor. Don't go to the U.S. Congress and testify in the Senate. It didn't work out for a lot of those guys.
They don't call me.
Let me you've got this new science research park that's being built. Talk about that a little bit, because I know it's part of your construction plans, etc. So it sounds super exciting. So what are you trying to do?
So let me add that to this notion of like I said, one of our responsibilities, I said, is enable and empower everybody to create companies, to really create job creation. But we also want to empower other existing companies to come live on our campus, work with our campus, and really inject a notion of pragmatism, practicality of development, create internship opportunities for our students, literally on our campus. So we have allocated nearly a 20-acre site, a 1.1 million square foot development, where companies, large, medium, and small, in an ecosystem will be given a place to just operate on our campus. And I am super excited about this because I think it's going to change the way we collaborate with these companies. We are not trying to compete with real estate outside. We are just trying to look for companies who have research operations that would benefit from proximity and co-location with some of our best faculty.
Okay.
So that's what that is. So again, it's a different way of doing business. Most universities won't be able to do this. They may not have the space. I have been blessed. We have the space, but we also have the vision of how we want to allocate and use the space to really make a bigger impact.
Okay. Okay. All right, sounds good. All right, we've got a question about the Glass Center, which I apologize, I'm not sure exactly what that is, but
I can tell you what that is. So one of the things I've been arguing So when I came here, the notion that the community has, hey, you're a public institution, but you're only up on the mesa, on the hill up there for the elite people. You don't connect to the community. So that's the point I said, you know what? Okay, at some point, then we had the light rail come. We agreed to bring the light rail, which we had never supported, but now I'm glad it's here. So I said, our job is to go into the community, enable the community, and have the community come to us. So that was the reason we did Park and Market. Now, when I built Sixth College, I built in there something called the Craft Center. This is a multi-faceted craft center with state-of-the-art ceramics, surfboard crafting, glass bead making, jewelry making. I can go down the list. The goal here was to create those activities which allow for our students to develop other skills, release their stress, at the same time allow communities to come to our campus and be engaged with us. And the Craft Center has been hyper successful, right? We had a Craft Center which I had to demolish for other reasons 10 years ago, but now I brought it back. So while we are investing in more housing, I'm also activating the campus. So this time around, I said we're going to build a glass facility, a Chihuly category glassmaking facility for the same reason, focusing on the arts, culture, entertainment, focusing on the creation of arts on our campus, leveraging the excellence we have, and building areas where communities can come to us and our students have a way of developing skills and releasing stress. It's multifaceted. I'm really excited about what we are doing. Most places don't have it. Some places, like MIT, I think has a great glass center. So part of it could be a museum quality glass exhibition. Much of it is production quality or amateur quality productions using professional quality equipment.
Okay. All right, you got another question, and maybe that I can broaden this because the question is about why is the Moores Cancer Center not better known as one of the best in the U.S.? It seems like you said, the UC San Diego maybe doesn't do a good job about bragging about some things because you have some world-class institutions, but
right.
Maybe they're not as well known as they could be. So maybe start with the Moores Cancer Center and then maybe talk about some of the other ones. Is there a way to raise their profile? Is that
Yes.
part of the plan?
Indeed. And so that is part of our vision. So part of the vision is to become a destination campus. In one way, or one of the many ways of becoming a destination campus is to create what I call destination programs. So in the School of Medicine, we're going to have multiple destination programs. So this goes back into our creation. Our mentality was, like the Midwestern mentality. If we do good work, if we work hard and do good work, we will be recognized. The answer is yes, we will be recognized, but the time constant is very long and large. Right? I want to be recognized in my lifetime, not after I'm dead. So we are changing that and becoming a little bit more aggressive. And that's what I said. We want to talk about what we are doing, not always boast about how good we are. We have to do that too, but the people will decide. So I think you'll see more about, right now we are the number 19th ranked hospital in the country, like literally. So our Moores Cancer Center is part of it. So we have to change the culture of talking more about what we are doing, how we are positioning at the cutting edge of research in cancer, in curing cancer, in managing cancer, right? So the short answer is yes, we're on our way. Moores Cancer Center is one of the destination programs. Orthopedics might be another, neuro might be a third, cardio might be a fourth. So we have to identify about half a dozen areas where we become a destination hospital where people from all over the world say, you know what, you're going to go there for this type of issue.
Okay. All right, we've got 1 minute left. So let me ask the big question, or not the big question, but you've been doing this for 12 years, which is a long time for chancellor. Most chancellors usually don't do this. So what's your runway being a chancellor, and what do you want to be known for when you finally step down? What is that legacy that you've created?
So the runway, I'm not saying that's the time frame, but Henry Yang, who just announced he's stepping down, will be doing so after 30 years. So one of the beauty of the UC system is that the longevity of chancellor is a little bit longer than a private institution. What do I want to be known for? I want to be known for having added to an already existing excellent institution and made it better and made it more, how should I say, sustainable in terms of its excellence and in terms of its impact.
Well, you've done a phenomenal job. I mean, everything, the accolades, the numbers, everything has kind of gone in a great direction. So I know we're very lucky to have you as the chancellor here.
I'm fortunate to be here. I'm telling you, I'm really fortunate. The community out here has been super supportive. I cannot say thank you enough. I mean, this is an amazing community.
Oh, it definitely takes a team, but it also takes someone who is to kind of help pull that vision together and drive it. So thank you for everything you've done for UC San Diego. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. This was great. We have a really good commercial real estate program coming up on the 26th with David Marino talking about what's happening in the commercial real estate trends around the United States, not just San Diego, but around the United States. And I think that's great. We've had a couple of updates from him over the years, and it's been always fascinating. So please tune in for that one. Chancellor, thank you very much. We very
Thank
much
you, Ed.
appreciate the time. And thank
Thank
you,
you,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.